Drake Maye.
Don't you find
It's Drake Maye. Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. Get paid, baby. Woo!
Didn't you sweat for a second?
For a second, I thought JJ was going to be there.
I'm publishing right now.
Didn't you say, and there it is, breaking news, the Patriots have a quarterback. That quarterback is Drake Maye. That guy is the guy that everybody...
Drake Maye.
The Patriots need to send the Commanders a fruit basket. Gave him Christian Gonzalez and Drake Maye. Are you freaking kidding me? 2 blue chippers. Woo!
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
The Patriots have a new quarterback. Okay, so let's dissect it. Now what? Now what do they do?
Now they're good. They're good again. Everything is fixed.
There's hope again. It's a reset from where we were with Mac, and that's okay.
Look, I guess the best thing is this. Whether May is good or not, nobody knows. I just think, and again, this will sound shitty, but I don't mean it to be, but this is a new regime. It's a GM that isn't being called a GM, a process that's being referred to as collaborative, potential ownership involvement. We're not really sure what's going on in the building there, so you don't know whether to have faith in it yet. So I guess part of the fear was just don't F this up, right? Like
exactly.
Sometimes it is that easy. And this is kind of it, is you take one of these 3 guys and then you pray they were the right guy. And you never know which one of these it's going to be. It's a chance that 1, 2, or 3 of these top 3 players is either going to bust or just not be what you thought they were. That's a risk everybody takes here. This is a guy who has all the talent, all the tools, and Tayler has liked, from day one, and that's what we got. We got him here.
I'm having an out-of-body experience. I'm so happy. The past week and a half have been a freaking nightmare trying to just compartmentalize the possibility of JJ McCarthy going over Drake. But I mean, look at these throws. That one, not necessarily, but in all seriousness. So I've already gone over what makes him so special. But I mean, the arm talent. So I've already talked about the physical tools. The biggest thing that Gerard Mayo has said consistently is that they wanted guys who were tough and they want leaders. Elliot Wolf has said the same thing. This is a guy, all 3 of his brothers, his mom and his dad, were exceptional athletes. I think his dad and his brothers all played, or 2 of his brothers and his dad played at UNC. His brothers played basketball. His dad played football. His mom was a really good high school athlete. One of his brothers, I think, played at Miami or something like that. Really athletic family. He was the youngest kid, which, you can underrate that, but you get that competitiveness and that obviously he's got good genes. On top of that, his teammates loved him, always talked about how fiery a competitor he was, all those kinds of things. Clearly a tough dude. Like, one of my favorite plays when I was watching him was against NC State or Clemson. You can look at either game where they're down pretty significantly and there's not really a great shot at them coming back. And he's still firing passes and making plays to help them stay in the game. I love his makeup. I love the physical skill set. Obviously, the Patriots still need to get the best out of him, and they need to refine him so that all the admittedly very bad inconsistencies with the accuracy and with the mechanics, those are the reasons where you're saying, okay, he may need a redshirt year. But you're hoping you bring all these guys in. Alex Van Pelt, who's had experience with so many different quarterbacks, putting quarterbacks in position to succeed, as we saw last year in Cleveland. They played 5 different quarterbacks, and they still managed to be a playoff team. They made the playoffs last year? They made the playoffs last year, didn't they? Yeah, they did, because Joe Flacco, they got blown out by Houston. But they still managed to be a playoff team through all the adversity they faced. So, obviously, T.C. McCartney is still an unproven commodity, but I do think that, they still need to get the offensive tackle. They still need to get the wide receiver. They still need explosiveness on offense. But Drake Maye showed in college that he can make up for deficiencies elsewhere because he's such a talented player. So I'm going to pop a blood vessel in my neck, man. I'm fired up. This is awesome.
You're like Marte Mapu fired up. I love that. It's that good. No, look, it's the number one thing. And again, nobody ever knows. Okay. You just don't know. There was people didn't like CJ Stroud last year. And and you never know, but Patriots fans, take a breath. Your long national nightmare is over. Does it mean it's going to be successful? No, but at least you got something to look forward to be excited about. That's something you can't say. We don't know if May's going to be good, but I'm telling you, the darkness, the dark clouds that have been over Foxboro because of their quarterback situation since Cam Newton to a teeny glimmer of Mac, even though I never liked the pick and thought the ceiling was so low on what he could be, to just watching him fall off a cliff, whether it was all his fault or not, into just these dark, dark days, and probably starting last season knowing you got a pretty mid QB at best, and you're probably not going to be bad enough to end up in a position where you can go out and draft a replacement. And what do you know? They were bad enough to get to this point. So it's a big deal that they got here, because this took at work, right? This could have been a 7-win team, Taylor. This could have been a team stuck in the middle of the draft, not able to do something like this. They had to get here. They had to get to 2 or 3 to get this, and they did it. So like that alone is something to be happy about and to smile about, and it is an accomplishment. We'll hear stuff from different people, coming up here from the draft, and I bet we'll hear reports from Foxboro. This is their guy. This is their guy. This is their guy. I believe a lot of those reports. I really do, Taylor. I think this is and was their guy the whole time. I really do.
Like you said, Gerard Mayo was pretty. I would just want to watch the video. I'm finally seeing him actually get taken. Gerard Mayo was very obvious about this when we talked to him at the AFC coaches breakfast, and he's saying Drake Maye is a guy who he doesn't have a ceiling. He acknowledged the fact that, he's still a very inexperienced guy. He's 21 years old. He's going to turn 22 at some point this season, but he only played 2 seasons as a starter in college football. He still has a lot to learn, and everybody knows that. But, coaches are supposed to coach. That's the whole point of the job, is you take these guys who have all this talent. And again, I cannot emphasize enough that Drake Maye's not a guy who's just giving you, a bundle of traits where you're like, all right, but he doesn't know how to be accurate. He doesn't know when to throw with touch and all these things. There's so many traits that a lot of the quarterbacks in this class don't have in terms of just their innate physical ability that he's gotten spades on top of, like I said earlier, the ability to attack a defense, knowing what kind of coverage structure he's getting, to punish them for certain lapses, and also to just make plays on his own. Like Mac Jones, we talked about it year after year, how he kept trying to do things he couldn't do. He kept trying to play outside of structure, be a runner, be a guy who could throw on the run. He couldn't do that. Patriots finally have a guy who can truly rise all ships and be the kind of quarterback who truly, not only on the field, but also off the field, once I think he grows more into that leadership role, which is great for Jacoby, can really be that guy who makes everybody around him better. Oh, this is so exciting.
Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Oh, man. We're competitive again. Let's go. Oh.
I mean, competitive or not, it's the hope. And again, anybody who's been here, and I know a lot of you guys have not, again, this dip that you've seen over the last few years is really the first taste of failure. If you're a Patriots fan, depending on how old you are when you were born, you've seen different things. It hasn't always been this way, but it also is hard to get out of it sometimes. And whether it's the Patriots or whether you're rooting for different teams here, hitting rock bottom is actually pretty cathartic in the sense that there's only one place to go, which is up. You don't always get there, but the promise and the potential and the possibility, when you enter seasons, there was a downside a little bit in the dynasty years. There was nothing interesting that happened until the AFC Championship. Yeah, you loved watching them steamroll teams and you wanted those rings and you're compiling them and it's great. Great. Love it. But this is like you hang on everything here, right? The little bit of development, what are you going to do here? The possibility of adding weapons as you go, the possibility of maybe having landed that guy, who knows if he's that guy or not. And it's fun to follow here. So again, it's pretty cool that that's what we're in here. So let's talk about realistic expectations. Everybody assumes, Taylor, that it's not happening, right? That he's not starting. You have Jacoby Brissett, and for the first time I'm saying Jacoby Brissett, and I don't mean O'Shea Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is the presumptive day one starter, much like Cam Newton was the presumptive day one starter, and Matt came in and took it from him. So we think because Maye is a little bit more raw, needs some refining, footwork mechanics, that he's going to wait it out. What do you think?
So
and Marvin Harrison Jr. goes 4.
Yeah,
Nothing. Everything has gone exactly according to plan, and also no trades, which is interesting here. Yeah,
I like that. Honestly, it's just these are the picks that made the most sense. Get Kyler Murray, his big outside receiver. He thrived with DeAndre Hopkins. He thrived with AJ Green. He doesn't really throw in the middle of the field. And Marvin Harrison Jr. gives him a guy who can win outside consistently and be that dominant X that he really thrives with. But in terms of Drake Maye and whether or not he's going to start year one, I really do think it's just going to take some time for him to really get the footwork under control, to put him in a position where he can process defenses and do certain things like that without having to necessarily, take certain hits or maybe lose his confidence. Like, you don't need to throw him into the fire. You have Jacoby Brissett. My thing is, if he starts showing you potential in practice and behind the scenes, you're like, oh no, like, he's got his footwork down. He picked it up pretty quickly. He's throwing pretty accurately. He's still got a spray miss every once in a while, but he actually has a good training camp and, preseason. Maybe you do consider, maybe we put him out there. Now, a lot of this also depends on what's the offensive line situation. Is Chuks Okorafor good enough to really hold down that left tackle spot? Do you draft somebody who can be the starter and then, maybe there's some kind of shuffling? And also, do you have that true X? Because one thing, Maye loved throwing to his X receiver, that guy on the backside who is Tez Walker usually, who could just win one-on-one. If they get that kind of guy where you can instill confidence and he has those playmakers who can support him as a young guy who's maybe not going to be where he needs to be in terms of, again, the processing and certain decision-making things, I think you can play him at some point his rookie season. But at the same time, if you are hesitant and you're like, nah, we'd rather just have him develop behind the scenes a la Jordan Love and then be able to put him out there when he's a bit more confident in his abilities. I don't think he's not confident in his abilities. I think Drake Maye is supremely confident. But at the same time, I think you have the option because Jacoby is still a very good quarterback. Like with the Browns, they had him out there until Deshaun Watson ended his suspension. Deshaun Watson goes out there and he's markedly worse. And people were like, put Jacoby back out there. We don't want to watch this guy. So I think Jacoby is still a good enough quarterback as long as he stays healthy, where he can be your guy this season, again, especially if the supporting cast can improve with some talented, explosive rookies, maybe a trade or something like that. And if you really, really don't want Drake Maye starting year one, you have Bailey Zappi, who's shown 2 seasons in a row that he can be a solid spot starter for you. And this, like we talked about it, this isn't and I know you're going to laugh, but this also isn't a year where you want to win. Like, you want to be competitive. You don't really want to win a ton of games necessarily, because then you get another maybe top 5-10 pick and you get your true number one receiver. I don't think you get this season.
I want to do the Drew 90, like I said, 93 Drew Bledsoe, number 1 overall. Next year they come back with the number 4 pick, Willie McGinnis. And again, it's just not, if you go back and you look at every successful team, you look at the 3-4 drafts that preceded their ascent. That's where the core comes from. That's what you do. You got to nail these. You need not just core players. You need kind of top of your position type players. That's where you get them. And the cupboard has been relatively bare. Maybe they found one in Gonzalez. Maybe they found one in Barmore. That's the beginning. You're nibbling here. Barmore is already extension eligible though. So again, you're really only talking about just beginning to build here. You can't do it without the quarterback. There is an argument to build, from the inside. Go ahead.
Chargers are also picking. They're not trading.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there's also a report here, and we'll get to this a little bit. The Patriots, according to Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, had big-time trade offers. What those are exactly, who knows? But stick and pick, and this is kind of plays to my point here, is sometimes it makes more sense to kind of build in the trenches before you go out and you get your quarterback, because it's not only who's he throwing to, Taylor, it's you want to keep him alive. And if you have any notion of starting Drake Maye, and again, some of the best quarterbacks in the world saw ghosts while they were, what do you got? Your reactions are killing me.
Sorry. I see it.
Just say it.
The Chargers took Malik Neighbors. Finally got Justin Herbert a weapon. Let's go. Okay.
Well, you knew that was coming too. When they got rid of their receivers here, you knew that was a thing that was there. Again, the board's been incredibly predictable so far. But as far as this goes, you have no choice when you pick this high. You've got to go with the quarterback here. So you got to address some other needs. The sexy thing, obviously, is receiver, but I really think you have to, if you have any hope of playing Drake Maye, he needs protection more than he needs weapons to begin with. You start worrying about that later. Not saying you don't want to see one, but there is that possibility of potentially trading a pick. As Zach Cox said earlier, Tom Curran had alluded to the possibility, NBC's Tom Curran, of Brandon Ayuk being in play for that 34th pick. And I think if you get through round 1 today, Taylor, and Ayuk's still a 49er, that becomes interesting and real entering day 2 tomorrow for sure. But right now you have what you have, which is Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas.
I will say this. I think Demario Douglas.
Jacked up Quan Thornton.
Demario Douglas is someone who like when remember last year we were talking about all the receivers. Now, like everybody was basically a different version of Zay Flowers. It's like there was Zay, and then like Josh Downs was day 2 Zay, and then Demario Douglas was like day 3 Zay. Josh Downs was a really good receiver for Drake Maye, a guy he went to a lot. I think Demario Douglas is going to feast with Drake Maye on those slot days.